Hello, Facebook world. Today I wanted to chat a little bit about hiring a virtual assistant agency versus just hiring an independent virtual assistant. I've been talking a lot this month about delegation and how to delegate and the types of things you can delegate. But this is another big piece of it as to what's a better fit for you and your company. Honestly, it really comes down to preference, but I wanted to go through some of the pros and cons of those. So first off, I have kind of a crazy analogy. It works, but it might be a little stretch. But anyway, I'm really not a super big sports person. I used to be before I was married. I was incredibly invested with the Utah Jazz. I very rarely missed games. I could tell you any player, their stats, their personal facts. I would go to all the meet and greets that they had around the valley with the players, and I was a little bit obsessed. It was kind of funny, but and then I got married, and my husband is super duper not into sports, so I kind of lost my love of the game. But my point of telling you that is because sports is a good analogy for working with a team of VAs versus working with an individual VA. So there's obviously a mixture of team and individual sports, right? So with a team, you're going to have multiple people who could cover for everyone else, or when there's a lack of talent, but you always have built-in camaraderie. With your individual sports, you're really encouraging an athlete to push themselves and to be laser focused on improvement. So when you're looking to hire a virtual assistant, you have the opportunity of choosing between an agency or a team versus one that just works on their own. And they both have advantages and disadvantages, but I just kind of wanted to go through those a little bit. So first of all, independent virtual assistants is really just like hiring a traditional administrative assistant. You're hiring a single person to serve as your VA. So here's some of the pros that I want to point out. Consistency. You can give them complex, long-term projects without having to explain things very regularly. They're loyal to you. When they're working for you as an independent contractor, they're working for just you instead of an agency. It's easy to build a personal relationship because you have good rapport. You can strike up conversations working one-on-one with someone. It's can be a little bit easier to get to know them, like birthdays, milestones, things like that. The other thing is it could be less expensive than working with an agency. It really depends on their skill set, how long they've been in business, those sorts of things as to what their price point is. But sometimes you can find them that are cheaper than working with an agency. The cons, though, of working with an individual virtual assistant is it can be inflexible. So if your VA gets sick or goes on vacation or quits or disappears, you're just left with nothing. There's nobody there to pick up the pieces for you. And they also could have fewer skills. So they may be incredibly knowledgeable and experienced, but they may not know all the different programs and softwares and systems that an agency with multiple VAs may know. So on the other hand, the agency virtual assistants, what that means is that there's an agency and they hire a team of virtual assistants. And so you're contracting the agency and then they're managing the virtual assistants beneath them. So, and depending on the agency, you could have an agreement to work with just one VA, or you could have multiple VAs working with you. I know there's like Upstart Upwork, or like freelance.com. Those are agencies. Those are where you're paying the agency and then the agency is paying the VA to do the work. So here's some pros to using an agency. Flexibility. So if you're working with multiple VAs, you're always going to have coverage, even if one's on vacation or quits. Even if you have a single VA that's assigned to you, it's easier for the agency to arrange coverage for when that person's gone or if they're unavailable or they quit. It's also easier if you all of a sudden have a big project or a launch or you have extra work. It's easier for them to be able to increase your hours. Sometimes when you're working with just an individual VA, they have time constraints, so you're not able to just add hours whenever you need to. The other thing is they're very knowledgeable. When you have an agency of VAs, you have a lot of skills, because one person may be really great at email marketing, one may be great at social media, one may be great at blogging, but you get all of that in one. So even if you have different skill sets that's needed, you can find it within an agency. The other thing is if there's personnel issues, which sometimes people don't think about this, but it does come up occasionally, even on my own team, that the person that we've assigned them to work with, they don't necessarily like how they work, or just want a different skill set, or they don't mesh. So it's easy if you're working with an agency to replace that person or trade out and work with another VA, and instead of you having to have that difficult conversation, the agency takes care of that conversation for you. So if you're not into managing the HR issues, hiring an agency could be the way to go for you, just because the agency will handle all of that for you. The cons of hiring an agency is you could have some inconsistency. If you have multiple VAs, it could be harder to get them all on the same page or communicate to all of them what you're looking for. You also could have less rapport. It could be hard to build a good relationship with that person, depending on how you're interacting with them, how frequently, and how. Like if you're video chatting with them or talking to them on the phone, it's going to obviously be easier than if you just communicate through email. So that's something to think about as well, is how important is that relationship to you. And then the other thing is the cost. It could be higher to work with an agency, because like I said, they're handling the HR issues, they have a bigger skill set, and you also have more flexibility with them. So it just depends on really the VA, on the cost. That's just something you usually have to work out with them. So at Admin-Ease, we're a mix of the two. I'd say we take the best parts of both of those and combine them into one. So yes, we're an agency. I currently have 5 VAs that work for me. But when you start working with us, we assign you to one VA, which we call an account manager, and then myself. So you're just working with the 2 of us. And then we work behind the scenes if something comes up that we don't know. So say you need some help with ActiveCampaign, and the person that you're assigned to doesn't know ActiveCampaign. We work behind the scenes together to train each other on that program. So the other thing is if your assigned account manager is out of town, the rest of the team is going to fill in the gaps for you. So, and because you only have one VA, it's really easy to build great relationships. With all of our clients, we do check-ins, we do phone calls, just so that we're building relationships and we're keeping in touch, because that's super important to us. So most of our clients have actually been with us for over a year. So I would say that we're pretty good at that part about building the relationship. So obviously the choice between choosing an agency or working with an individual virtual assistant, they're good in some ways and they're not so good in some ways, but it really just depends on your personality, your work needs, what is a better fit for you, and how you like to get things done. Either way, hiring a virtual assistant, you're going to get some fabulous help, and your life's going to be so much easier. So if you need help deciding between hiring an agency or an individual virtual assistant, or if that's just something that you have some questions on or you want to explore, please find some time to chat with me. I'd love to answer your questions or walk you through it. It's something that I'm really passionate about, is educating people on the advantages of hiring a virtual assistant and why you should have one. So that is all I have for you. I hope I answered your questions, and I hope you have a fantastic Memorial Day weekend. See you.